welcome to Retrospect, the program that takes you forward by looking back. Retrospect provides a review of the past 12 months and how we came through as a nation right here in Sierra Leone. I am Daphne Kimama-Koli.
And I am Harold Williams. Welcome to Retrospect. We are back with Retrospect, and it's been almost a week now since Retrospect has been coming to our viewers. Let's pick up in the month of April, and perhaps the most memorable event was the sudden halt of activities with news of an attempted jailbreak in the early hours of the morning. It was April 29th. Daphne, where were you on April 29th? Do you remember?
Well, I can't remember, but I know I was in Freetown. And I heard of that jailbreak anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we were all in suspense on that day, and Joseph Toure reported on the event.
Yeah, he was there.
The scenes around the Freetown Maximum Prison were chaotic earlier on Wednesday, with fully armed state security personnel rushing to respond to and put the situation under control. They shot live rounds of bullets and tear gas and mounted checkpoints at strategic locations to calm down the situation. This aborted jailbreak would have been Sierra Leone's most historic in recent decades. The prisoners lit up some monumental infrastructure within the prison's yard as part of their escape plan. But the Minister of Information and Communications, Mohamed Rahman Soare, says normalcy has been restored.
The Sierra Leone Fire Force is working very hard to suppress the fire, to extinguish it, and they are almost successful at doing that.
The prisoners who were in bond cells have been relocated to the male reintegration hosted at the former special court compound a few yards from the main Pademba Road Maximum Prison. The riot has indefinitely put on hold the annual Independence Anniversary Presidential Amnesty. The 235 prison inmates who were sentenced for minor offenses and should have spent at least half of their jail term were to be pardoned by 10 a.m. on Wednesday, 29th April, the second of such annual traditional release. SLBC, Joseph Toure, Freetown.
Now let's take you to the middle of the year, and months has passed since the airport had been shut down to all commercial traffic. But with COVID-19 preventive measures beginning to control the spread of the disease, Sierra Leone planned for the resumption of flights with passengers. Aruna Patikama sent in the story.
Government in March this year banned flights in and out of the country as part of its initial preparedness measures. A week ago, the ECOWAS Ministerial Coordinating Committee on Transport, Logistics and Trade made recommendations on the harmonized and gradual reopening of land, air and sea borders. These recommendations by the ECOWAS was for the restoring cross-border economic activities, especially for movement of humanitarian personnel, medical supplies and equipment, and essential goods in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. According to the release of ECOWAS, after their deliberations, the ministers recommended a gradual and coordinating opening of land borders and airports of ECOWAS member states based on health data on the violation of the pandemic. The release also called on the fiscal measures by government to support the effective implementation of the guidelines. Because of these guidelines measures raised by the ECOWAS release, the reason the managing director of the Sierra Leone Airport Authority, Ebenezer Macaulay, said government has placed order for some electronic machines that will be used at the airport to ensure safety and preventive measures when the airport reopens. He said they have also developing their own standard of operating procedures for all stakeholders at the airport and enforce stimulation towards meeting the arrival of the first operation to make sure all measures are operating accordingly.
Decided on certain issues, processes that we have to use when we have arrival that's coming in. We have to have some hand washing equipment, temperature checks, social distance markings on the airport and terminal building to show the difference between one passenger to the next, and then we have a waiting hall. There are people who go and wait, thereby they will take them to the clinic to take their swabs, after which we take them to the hotels. Because we want them to stay in Lungi for at least 24 hours, them to receive their results, even if it's positive or negative, to know exactly what to do next day. If you are negative, obviously you will have to go. If you are positive, obviously there are provision for isolation and for treatment.
Mr. Macaulay said all arrivals have to stay in Lungi for at least 24 hours after arrival to know their status, and the airport is fully prepared for its reopening. The medical superintendent, Lungi Government Hospital, and central lead for case management, Dr. Alusaini Ila, said they have recommended to government to provide electronic machines to avoid contact with passengers. He said they are also trying to get separate ambulance and working on the expansion of the airport clinic for the administration of an emergency treatment within the premises of the airport. Apart from the COVID-19 preparedness measures for the reopening of the airport, all other operational activities of the airport are intact for the resumption of flights in the country. Auna Patukama, News Hour.
Well, not only had airports been shut down due to the observation of coronavirus preventive measures, but schools as well had to go into recess in order to strategize a way to conduct classes and also avoid the spread of COVID-19. With public exams on the line, it was imperative that schools reopened as soon as possible, and that was reported by the SLBC on the 1st of July. Soiba Samura sent in this report from Bo City.
Turnout of pupils in Bo to various schools has been described differently by school authorities, with some saying it is rather appalling. For Ahmadiyya Muslim Secondary School and Holy Rosary Primary School, one can find a good number of pupils who made it to school on this first day of reopening of schools. But for the Bo Government Secondary School, it is a different story altogether from the other schools SLBC visited.
We are well prepared. As you can see, when you came on campus, the Veronica buckets are there. These are items that are supplied to us by the old boys of the school. We have about 44 of those buckets that we believe will be very sufficient to cover the whole campus. And of course, we have also face masks being given to us by them also. You know, every child should have 5 of these face masks.
The reason for the low turnout at the Bo school, the principal says, cannot be unconnected to the culture in Sierra Leone of schools not being effective on the first day of school for both teachers and pupils. Even though some teachers made it to schools to have their lessons taught, some pupils did not attend for various reasons, ranging from lack of basic amenities to not being able to catch up with the buses to repatriate them. This JSS 3 pupil of the government secondary school in Bo, Sir Stephen Ansumana, was however enthusiastic for being back to school.
And I'm so happy for being here because when I came, I met all the classroom clean, things were packed, and we came to pay our school fees and our dormitory fees, and we met everything constructed well.
It remains a matter of wait and see whether the turnout of pupils would be different come next week, as they would have about 5 weeks left before they could sit to the 3 important public examinations of NPSC, Beke, and WASC. Soriba Samura in Bo.
All over the country, schools were reopening. Here in the capital, Joseph Toure was astride to this.
I'm here at Collegiate Secondary School here on Wilkinson Road. It's about 7:30 a.m. At the entrance, I see pupils coming back to school after a long time. But what I could not see at the entrance here is a wash facility, which is expected to be senior at this particular moment. A Veronica bucket, soap and water. So what let me get from these pupils how it feels like coming back to school. What's your name?
Danekoma. I'm Philippine. So studying. I need to study.
So there is another young man here. What's your name?
Well, my name is Ibrahim Sise, the deputy head boy of the West African Methodist Collegiate School.
Okay, Ibrahim Sise.
Yeah.
So what do you make of coming back to school after almost 3 months break?
Sitting at home all this while, I was not happy, but for now, since school has reopened now, I'm very excited, and I'm very happy for the government of Sierra Leone for putting these strategies together, and we're assured that we're going to make it up.
Okay. Now, what are some of your expectations? You've come today to school. What are some of your expectations, especially those of you who are going to write the forthcoming WASC?
Well, all we need now with the examination classes that are coming in inside now, we need the teachers' attention. We need them to teach us more because, you know, we sit home for a while now. So all we need now is our examination material so that we're going to be ready for the examination.
So have you been reading very well at home?
I can guess answer yes. I was reading at home.
Thank you very much. So we've just spoken to some of the pupils here at the collegiate WAM school here on Wilkinson Road. But as I said earlier, this is the entrance and it is expected that you see wash facilities at this entrance. But at the moment, as I'm speaking, it's around 7:30 a.m. There is no wash facility. While some pupils were seen with face masks, others were without any. The acting principal for the SS scolded those who did not comply.
Everybody should have masks. So if you don't have a mask, you go home or you buy one outside. If you don't have this, you go out. Nobody is beating again. You have to go out for yourself. No, let him go. He does not have mask. Let them go and look for one. It is 1,000, 2,000.
Minutes later, wash stations were provided by the past pupils of the 70s and 80s. And this was seen as timely and would possibly address the challenge of not having such facilities on the school campus. Pupils who came later were now seen washing their hands before entering their various classes. Safe hygiene also means having a clean and conducive learning space, as was seen here in one of the classes that was prepared for pupils. I am in one of the classes here at WAM Collegiate School at Wilkinson Road. This is an SSS3 class, and one of the rules that is supposed to be adhered to is social distancing. So as you can see at the back here, 2 pupils per seat. But one of the things that caught my attention is that there is a very low turnout of pupils. Many would have expected a mad rush at school today due to the long shutdown of schools for nearly 3 months now. Another precautionary measure agreed on between the school authorities and the Ministry of Education is the use of face masks by both teachers and pupils.
But it's actually comfortable. I mean, we just have to get ourselves adjusted to it. It is part of life for safety.
He was hopeful that teachers and pupils would utilize the limited time ahead of the forthcoming exams. SLBC, Joseph Toure, Freetown.
Well, the rains this year were torrential, though not as frequent as expected. The intense moments of rain gave proof that climate change is changing the weather patterns. Mariama Suma was in one community that had been identified as disaster-prone as early as 2017 following the mudslide disaster. And that community is Kaningo, from where she sent this report.
It has rained cats and dogs in Freetown like in other parts of the country in the last few days. The heavy downpour has caused the earth surface at hillside communities eroded. That erosion has resulted to the huge piles of slits in the waterways, serving as basis for flooding. In some communities, the water made way absolutely for itself from the clogged gutters, preventing or slowing down human and vehicular movements. The consequence of the latest disaster, as usual, has ended up clearing foundations and in some places an entire building, including the household items. This is the Kaningo Bridge here at Malama in Lombli. According to residents in this community, this bridge was flooded this morning due to the heavy downpour. According to them, if this bridge is not properly constructed, it will lead to the loss of lives of many people, especially children who normally use this route to access their different schools. As the community people look forward to a properly constructed bridge, they are scared that it will be washed away by the rain, as the one constructed by Second Construction Company last year. A resident of the community, Alfred Mansare, is afraid if the community bridge is not given a facelift to a proper and modernized structure.
This is how it looks like every year during the rains. Second Company was here last year to construct a bridge for us, but it was destroyed by the heavy rain. We are now calling on the government to help us with this bridge before it's too late.
Malama was one of the hardest hit during the August 14 mudslide and flooding last year. The heavy millimeters of rainfall have devastated dozens of communities in Freetown. Ascension Town, like others across the capital city, were turned into rivers, lakes or creeks. These images and many others making rounds on social media show how humans and vehicles got stuck in the rain due to flooding. Some cars were in fact turned into pools. This compound at Ascension Town is properly known as 44. Almost all its inhabitants have left as they fear the situation might get worse and destroy them. Kadiatu Kamara and Tene Kamara, who managed to stay, told me how difficult the situation is for them.
Last year, it was more than this. Whenever it rains, the water will flow into our houses. As you can see, the entire compound is flooded, and this is as a result of poor drainage facility. We have managed to do some work to remedy the calamity it could have caused on us, but it's not working. We are only appealing to the government to help us. It's hard for us. Most times my son is the most affected because he sleeps on the ground, and when it rains, he can't.
Ascension Town is one of the dozens of slum communities in Freetown. It is situated in the near west of this small West African city. Below the community is one of the city's two major landfill sites for waste, including human feces. The flood celebrity Krube community is so far reported to be flood-free. They heaped praises on the flood mitigation project by the Freetown City Council through the clearing of the community's major drainages. For SLBC News, Maria Masuma reporting.
Another kind of storm was heard about in Makeni City. Joseph Toure was there after normality had returned to Makeni.
The ugly incident that started on the night of Friday 17th July in Makeni was a major concern for many peace-loving citizens across the country. Roadblocks by youth at various locations in the municipality manifested a vain attempt to forestall the removal of a thermal generator from their township to Lunge, which they perceived would lead to frequent blackouts thereafter in the township. But the Minister of Energy, Alhaji Kanja Sise, told the SLBC they had earlier held consultations with the mayor and other stakeholders of Makeni.
I gave directives that since we have problems with electricity in Lunge, let's move one of those machines on a temporary basis to Lunge until we are able to repair the Lunge machines and take the machines back. I did not just do this for nothing. and I've given you the background. Process-wise, I sent my permanent secretary, the Director General of EGTC, and some other engineers, and the local staff of EGTC in Makeni, to go and hold a stakeholder engagement in Makeni. Under the chairmanship of the Mayor Sunkan, we informed them about our intention to tell them that we are just borrowing these machines to Lungi for a temporal period.
Many blamed the stakeholders in Makeni for failing to engage their people about the said decision. The Secretariat of the Sierra Leone People's Party condemned the act of violence few days ago. They alleged their party structure in Makeni was extensively damaged and furniture and other fittings were either vandalized or destroyed, the release went on. They called on other political parties to vehemently disassociate and condemn such a violent act and also support the police to do a speedy investigation. The National Youth Council chairman described the incident as unfortunate. However, what is expected of youth in responding to such a situation? Tijan Keller is president of the National Youth Council.
Going forward, as I've started my statement by saying I condemn all forms of violence purported by youth, and I'll further say, if such an incident reoccurs, instead of youth getting in the street, burning tires, attacking people or properties, let's look out for the appropriate personalities or individuals that are responsible for such incidents. Let's go to dialogue. There is one thing I always tell people, right? Let's engage in dialogue, negotiations, and lobby for us to achieve what we want. As youth of this country, we've done so many demonstrations, and nothing at the end was achieved. And we should learn from that point that we are not supposed to be using force to achieve what we want, rather than negotiations.
A press release from the Ministry of Information and Communications following the incident assured Makeni residents of government's commitment to maintain law and order, stating that regular power supply would be maintained. SLBC, Joseph Toure reporting.
And hopefully Makeni and other parts of the country will remain to be safe, peaceful and normal throughout 2021. In keeping with his commitments, the president took a bold and courageous step to ensure cabinet approval of the repeal of the criminal libel law and therefore table it in Parliament through the Ministry of Information and Communications. In a statement, the government said, the Parliament of Sierra Leone has finally amended the Public Order Act of 1965 by repealing Part 5 of the law, which deals with criminal libel, and also enacted the Independent Media Commission Act, IMC Act 2020. The IMC Act 2020 will enhance